Today, I turned 20 years old. And honestly, I'm really happy. Now, it feels so weird and at the same time liberating to say that. Because for the longest time growing up, I always dreaded the feeling of, well, growing up. Like when I was 11, I did not want to be 12. When I was 12, I did not want to be 13. And that continued on until I was like 18, 19, until only a few months ago when it really started to change. And that relief came from like what everyone told me of what was going to happen when you grow up. Like you won't have fun or you won't have enjoyment out of the things that you used to love. You won't be able to play video games anymore. You won't be able to have random trips anymore. You won't be able to like call up your friends and go on a random trip or vacation, And that sucked, like I did not want a life like that, like everyone tells you when you grow up, you'll only have burnout, work, and bills to worry about. You'll have back pain and all of these things. And so that personally was not the future that I wanted. I can understand the back pain, but the other things, it was like, it's something in your control. Like you feel like it's something in your control, but you can't really do anything about it because like it's what society has done and it's what you are doomed to do, right? Well, it actually depends. And, before I get to that, I'll give you some context first. So, if you've been on my channel or watched my videos, you'll know that this is a business channel that I talk about business. I talk about profit, scaling, yada, 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 how to get clients. So you're probably expecting me to say that when I earned my first internet Wi-Fi money online, that's when I started feeling like age doesn't matter anymore. That's when I had freedom and all of these things. But the reality isn't actually that way because when I earned my first 5 figures online or in general earned my first $10,000 a month as a teenager, that's when I started feeling the most burnout in my life. Like when people complain about 9 to 5s, I actually started to complain about 24/7 because I was taking up my entire day. And so it sucked. And the feeling of like aging and the bad things about aging came back to me like a storm. Like it came down to me cascading again. And I hated growing up again. And so that was around when I was 19. And so the worst age after 19 is 20, right? And I'm 20 today, but I'm actually pretty happy. That's why I said it's so liberating because for pretty much like 95% of my life, I hated growing up. But the 5% now, which I got in my 20s, I'm actually starting to love life now. And I'm starting to love aging. And that all happened because I actually started to design my life. Now, there's this concept about like designing your life. But before I get to that, I want to give you some context on me in general because like I'm not making this video to give you guys a sub story. Like, no, I did not have horrible birthdays. I did not have a horrible childhood. Like my life was pretty good. I had good birthdays. I went on trips with my friends. I celebrated, I went around the world. I went outside the country, all of these things. So it's not that my birthdays suck. I had a pretty good life and I had a pretty good childhood. And obviously I got my cakes and stuff. But the days that did suck were the days after that because the dread or like the eventual feeling of growing up all came crashing down to me again. Like, when you when you become a new age, when you have a birthday and it's so happy on that day, and then the day after you realize you have to go back to regular life and that you're growing older. Well, that's what it felt like. Like the responsibilities came, the anxiety came, and all of these things came. It all came crashing back. Even when I built my business again and started earning money of my own, right? Like what most people tell you their dreams are, it's like at some point, it all comes back to freedom, right? And that was my dream. And like I thought to get to that dream, I just have to make money online, or I just have to lock in or go monk mode, what people tell you to. And it did not really work out that way. I still hated growing up. I still hated aging. I still hated adding a number to my age. Even when I did all of that, I'm able to build a successful business. I did all of that, and I'm still doing it now, right? But it did not really reflect that. And so, again, I came onto this concept called like designing your life. And I saw a post from like Twitter or something. It was a guy talking about like designing his life. And one thing struck to me. It was like instead of you designing a lifestyle around your business, you should actually design your business around your lifestyle. Now, if you're not building a business, that's fine. But what I mean by that is whatever your main thing is, whether that's like school or if you're even working right now, or if you have different passions, like art, singing, all of that stuff, instead of you having to design your work around your instead of you having to design your lifestyle around your work, you need to design it the other way around. So design your work around your lifestyle instead. Because if you do the opposite, which is you designing your um, lifestyle around your work, you'll actually become a slave to your work. And to me, I became a slave to my business. Like I hopped on calls with unqualified people. I did marketing when I shouldn't have, and I had bad clients that drained the hell out of my time. And so that was like a big contributor in me hating growing up. Not only did the beliefs of people, telling me that growing up is bad, I also built my own beliefs that growing up is bad because it was evident in my business. The more I grew up, the more I grew my business, the more it sucked for me personally and everything else. So that wasn't bad. I mean, that was bad. Oh, that was bad. Obviously that's bad. So I had to change something. And again, I came back to this concept of like designing my work around my lifestyle. And so that's what I did, gradually. Like instead of me being a slave to my work, I instead started treating my work as this secondary thing. Because like at the end of the day, man, if you don't have a life, or if you're this no life guy, what are you really living for, Unless you're like Alex or Mosey, where work is kind of your entire thing. Um, at some point, you still have to enjoy life. And as a kid, I want to do so many things. Like I want to travel the world. I want to have fun with my friends. Like I'm planning a trip with Japan with my friends, right? And before that seemed impossible to me because how the hell will I do that when I have a business to run, when I have money to make, when I have all of these things. But then, you know that meme where it says like, we forget that this is the point of like everything. Well, kind of like what it felt like, because the point of me doing all of this, grinding, locking and making money online with my business, building this is actually not because I want to make money, but it's because I want to get my freedom so I can do all of the things I've always wanted to do, so I could tick off that bucket list that I've never even made because I was always scared of me not being able to complete it. But now I'm actually able to. Like, I have a bucket list now and list of like things that I want to try out, and I'm actually confident that I will able to try most of it except skydiving, still scared of heights. Anyways, like point being here is if you start designing your life like that, then you will start feeling way more freedom around the things that you've actually wanted to do, right? Not just freedom with the things that actually enslave you more. So like if you hate doing XYZ, if you hate doing this type of work, stop doing it. There are other ways. If you're stuck in a job, don't take this as financial advice, but why not try something else? Why not try something else that actually makes you feel alive? And obviously at the start it will suck. Like you will not have any results. But if you stick to it long enough, you'll be able to generate way more results simply because you love the thing. Like I dropped out of college around 2 years ago without plan B, without a diploma, without nothing. Like I had less than $2,000 in my bank account from the old business that I started. And the reason why I dropped out is because I did not see a future with college, you know? Like, if you see a future with college, by all means, go to college. I'm not one of those guys that tells people to drop out. And, I did not see a future with it. And so I dropped out. And that was one of the best decisions that I've made in terms of like really designing my life. Because I do not see myself spending 4 more years into something that will not even earn me anything valuable. Like, sure, I'll learn some stuff about like a few different subjects and I'll get a few networks here and there. But it wasn't something that would set me up for life, you know? And they proved that when I started my business. I won't talk too much about it because this is not a business video. So, anyways, point being here is if you're still scared of growing up, know that adulthood doesn't have to be that way just because society told you it should be, Like, I love this quote where it goes something like, do not let society set your dreams. Like, do not let society tell you to get a job, go through a 9 to 5 that you hate, and do XYZ. Instead, dictate your own dream. It goes something along those lines. Like, if you go through and if you believe all of the fears that society tells you, then you're letting society set your dreams. And you shouldn't let that happen, man. Like, that was the path that I was going on if I did not decide to like take the leap, if I did not decide to drop out, change the way I do business, all of these things. So if you're on that path, try to go a different path. Like, everyone's mostly going the easy way, and the easy way is legit where people like go to jobs, that they hate, do all of these things. But if you go the harder route, and it's the unconventional route, and by hard, I don't mean it being hard by it being like mentally challenging or physically demanding. No, it's hard because it's genuinely difficult to go that route because everyone tells you not to. Everyone tells you to get a job that you hate or at least get a decent job, but you will end up hating it. Everyone tells you to do all of that. And so in your mind, it's kind of like ingrained that you should do that, right? But if you feel like that's not your dream, which I'm hoping it isn't, like you actually have big dreams. If you're a young person watching this, you probably have crazy dreams. You have a dream of like changing the world. Even if you're older, you still have dreams like that. Don't let that fire like burn out. You know, like you have big dreams. You have big dreams of like saving the world, changing the world, ending world hunger, space travel, all of these things. I know some of you guys have dreams like that, and I'm proud of you. Like, I know you'll be able to achieve it someday, but you just need to put in the work. Like, you know, everyone who tells you that you cannot do stuff like that are probably people who still have dreams set to them by society, right? But if you have big dreams like that, like if you genuinely want to change the world someday, the first step that you have to take yourself is start designing your life today and stop listening to the dreams that society has set for you. Instead, start listening to your dreams. And if you do that, you'll find out that adulthood doesn't actually suck that bad, you know? Like, this is the first birthday in a while where I actually appreciated growing up, you know, except for the fact that my friends now call me Unk because I'm starting to get older than some of them. And so that's the lesson, or I don't even know if it's a lesson. This is more of like a random video that I'm leaving you guys here today. Like, if you're growing up and you hate it, start figuring out why. Is it because society has set dreams for you and you believe it? Or is it because of something else? Chances are, it's most likely because of what you've been told before when it comes to growing up. But I'm telling you, it doesn't have to be that way. At the end of the day, we are still like the captains of our souls or whatever quote that is. I kind of forgot. You know, to put it simply, at the end of the day, this is still our life. If you are breathing, if you're watching this video and you are hearing this video, you have a free will and you have a will to like control how your life becomes. Like, even if you're in a bad spot right now, I sympathize. You can still change it someday. And at the end of the day, we have control. And that's like one of the best things that we have as human beings, as people. And so that's it for me today. Hopefully this doesn't scare you anymore of like growing up. Instead, it actually makes you love life more because, well, the more you grow up, the more control you will have. All right. So, yeah, see you guys soon. And hopefully, this actually helped. Right.